Hello and welcome to the latest episode of the Inside Game podcast. Before I introduce today's guest, this episode is in association with Raymond Waters at the Old Coach Inn Castleblaney. And here's a word from Ray's Tanning and Wellness in Auchnachoy.
Rays are the first on the island of Ireland to offer the Red Wave Pure Red Light Therapy Bed, a cutting-edge recovery tool now being used by top athletes worldwide. Whether it's muscle soreness, inflammation, joint stiffness or speeding up overall recovery, red light therapy is becoming a genuine game changer. So if you're training hard, coming back from a knock or just wanting to stay injury free, call into Rays and experience the benefits for yourself. Rays Tanning and Wellness, helping athletes recover faster, perform better and stay in the game.
A very warm welcome everyone to the Inside Game podcast, episode number 12 today, and I welcome on a fellow podcaster. He is the host of the Rossi podcast. It's a podcast, of course, dedicated to all things Roscommon, GAA, which is produced by Shannonside Northern Sound. And this is Darragh O'Connor. Darragh, you're very welcome onto the show. How's things?
All good, Gary. Thanks for having me.
No problem. So, look, when getting in touch, it was Kieran from Shannonside Northern Sound who helped connect us, and he was saying you're a journalist there and you're a very avid and knowledgeable Roscommon man, and I've watched a few of your podcasts and he's definitely not wrong.
Yeah, look, like first and foremost, I'm a fan. I'm a big fan of Roscommon. I rarely miss a game. Whether it's down in Killarney or up to Donegal or in the Hyde, I do be there when I can. So it's like any county and any fan, it's heartbeat going to the game and enjoying it. And these are great weeks. Division 1 games are really exciting to be a part of. We're back this year. And it's just the buzz of it, like I'm already looking forward to Sunday. Armagh bring a great following with them. It should be a big crowd and a big buzz around the place. So that's what it's all about. And yeah, the podcast getting to talk about Roscommon is obviously an added bonus. So I've enjoyed it. We've done it for about 18 months, the dedicated Roscommon one, and it's gone well. I was actually telling you off air just before we came on, I said it's nice being talking about a win because last year was our first proper year, and unfortunately we didn't have a great year. I think we won one game in about 8 or 9 towards the end. So having talked about a win against Monaghan the last day was a lot more pleasurable than the losses. So hopefully from strength to strength. I know it's our Armagh audience, but I'll be flying the Roscommon flag for a win on Sunday as well.
Oh, of course. Well, look, Darragh, it's quite possible that we're going out to two sets of listeners here, mine and yours. So if you don't mind, if you maybe tell us a bit about yourself, things like your journalism, you mentioned the podcast already, maybe you play a bit of football, club, your things like that, and then after I'll maybe do something similar for your listeners.
Yeah, so primarily I'm a news journalist with Shannonside Northern Sound. So I've been a journalist there for 2.5 years. So primarily news. Obviously, I do the Rossi podcast, focusing mainly on Roscommon football, as well with the station. And yeah, so I've been with the station quite a while. I think probably a lot of people will know my voice either on the podcast or listening to the radio and and giving them the news. Club football, yeah, my local club here in Roscommon is Kilbride, who are based about 10 minutes outside Roscommon town. I do try to play a bit now. I'm not going to hype myself up to be anything special. Junior B, I think that is my level at the moment, but it's my club. So yeah, involved with Kilbride, and that's really the backstory to me, Gary. Like, there's nothing too exciting. I said live a quiet enough, keep myself to myself at times, and I said enjoying work. So look, I'll hand it over to you, and if you want to give a bit of an introduction.
Yeah, sure. Well, look, I began this podcast around about November 2025, so it's not going very long. Just getting used to how the format of it all. I love listening and talking about Gaelic football, so I decided to enter this arena, give it a go. My dad would be very well known up in this part of the world for GAA media coverage, so I'm kind of following in his footsteps, really, in a way. My club up here in Armagh would be Sarsfields, always also known as the High Moss Sarsfields, and we're along the south shore of Lough Neagh, and I'm an underage coach, and I look after the running of the dads and lads team for us older guys still trying to play a bit of football. I've a claim to fame in that I played in the same full forward line as Ronan Clark for Armagh under-21s for a couple of matches. We didn't have a very long season that year, knocked out in the first round, unfortunately. And just like Armagh manager Kieran McGeaney, I'm also a black belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, and I'm involved in the running and the head coaching, along with my brother, of a gym here in my hometown in Lurgan in North Armagh. And I suppose, lastly, I've a wife and two kids, Louise, Grace and Adam, and all four of us are Armagh season ticket holders. We're at every Armagh match going, including the upcoming one, of course, in Hyde Park in Roscommon this weekend, which we're on to talk about.
Yeah.
But before we move into that side of things, Darragh, I want to ask you about the St. Bridget's team, who lost out in the All-Ireland club final in heartbreaking fashion against Dingle. And they also done the same in 2024 against Glen. And for my money, were the much better team that day. Look, it won't be much consolation to them, but I think most people recognise that was a damn good St. Bridget's team. Terribly unfortunate to not pick up at least one All-Ireland.
Yeah, no, you're dead right. Like, I was at the game. St. Bridget's are based in Kiltoom, South Roscommon, so they'll be about 25 minutes away from me. So look, I have no affiliation to St. Bridget's at all, but being at the game, being at the All-Ireland final, I was absolutely gutted for them. Really was. They played such a good game, and as you mentioned, the Glen game a couple of years ago as well, for 55 minutes, a brilliant game. They were big underdogs going into that Glen game as well. No one really gave them a chance. They were a bit probably an unknown actually going into that Glen game. No one really expected Bridges to get to the final that year, and to come so close, and unfortunately Conor Glass really dragged Glen through that game. So going into this year's final, it was the hope that maybe the experience from 2 years ago, 2 years older, like that Bridges team against Glen was quite a young team, lost them 21, 22, so a couple of years older going to the Dingle game. And yeah, I mean, look, first of all, what a game of football as well. It was just an unbelievable game of football. One of the best games you will see all year in terms of just quality, drama, two teams that play football in the right way. So you can't begrudge Dingle, but my God, it was hard. It was a hard one to take, and for those lads to put in so much for however many months between going from the county season then straight into the club, and it's a long club season, to come away, the very, very last kick of the club season, to lose it like that, it's heartbreaking. But they're young enough, they'll dust themselves down, and they'll be a threat in Roscommon straight away anyways. Even though it's tough to win Roscommon, Bridges had to win a replay to even win Roscommon against Porrick Pierce's this in that club season that's just gone. So it shows how hard it is to win even Roscommon and get out of that, and Connacht and that. So it is a while to go yet, but that team is quality, and they'll be back. They'll pick up another one or two Connachts, and hopefully they can get back to Croke Park and have another crack at that All Ireland.
Yeah, and I suppose we'll talk maybe more about some of the St. Bridget's players as well as we preview the Roscommon Armagh game at the weekend. But before we move into that area, just a review then of Roscommon's season thus far in the league, Darragh. So the Kerry Roscommon game, very controversial at the end. The rule, I think, states that the whistle, once the referee blows the whistle, then the clock starts to count again. But the clock didn't start to count for that final play until Sean O'Shea had kicked the ball, which isn't really what's supposed to happen. Which meant that by the time the ball got in there was really time for a catch and a quick hand pass over the bar. But that didn't seem to be the correct call. And how was what was the feeling there on that day?
Well, I was on about gutted at St. Bridges as I was down in Killarney, and it was gutting again. It was the week after losing to a Kerry team again with the very last touch of the ball. We'll say this time this was a fist from Tomas Kennedy, and you're absolutely right. I mean, there was actually multiple things that went against Roscommon. First of all, I think Roscommon could have had a case for 2 frees. I think you definitely get one of them. Mm-hmm. We didn't get either, and Kerry ended up getting the frees. That's one. The second thing, as you mentioned there, the timing, and that was the big one for me. I'll say the third thing at the Hoosier, even though that was proven that he actually got the ball away before the Hoosier sounded. So it was actually a good score from that respect. That wasn't my issue. The issue was the timekeeping, and there was 5 seconds left of the stadium clock. I was watching it like a hawk. You know, when you're seeing there's 5 seconds left and you're seeing where Sean O'Shea has the ball, I said, there's no way. There's just no way he can get that between when that clock starts and the ball to the travel and then for it to be caught and then there's just no way. So Brendan Cawley, the referee, signalled and blew the whistle. There was no movement on that, and I was even sitting there thinking, "Gee, he's already raced about two or 3 seconds here. He's not even kicked us, so it's going to go." I'm looking at the clock; still hasn't started. Now you say there it didn't start when he kicked it. It actually didn't even start until it was halfway towards the box. Would you believe? It actually didn't restart. And then obviously the Moss Kennedy catches it and puts it over the bar. So the questions that I raised on my own podcast after that is who has control? Who has full control of the stadium clock? I know a fifth official sits in the stand, but from what I've heard from, I don't know, is in every ground, the fifth official will sit beside the stadium scoreboard operator and he'll probably signal start, stop. He'll tell him when to hit start and stop. So if you have a home county official, let's be honest, you're going to, like, he might be sitting there saying, well, what's 2 seconds? Well, 2 seconds is everything. So that was frustrating, and it actually came out afterwards, and I even looked at it and I counted it. Kerry actually had a breach as well on that last play. Jeremy Mercer was kicking the ball, and a Kerry player came from behind and tackled him. He was actually the player that went into the Roscommon half and caused the breach. And I think the Roscommon bench were actually spotted that at the time, and they were very unhappy about it. So you could say 4 things went against us. I think we have a valid case for 3 of them. I think the only one thing that everyone was actually talking about was, did he fist it over when the Hoosier sounded or not? That wasn't even the most controversial thing. I think there was 3 other cases that we had. So deeply frustrating, and yeah, that's just, unfortunately, you don't get some decisions in Kerry now and again. That's how
that was certainly a very busy 20 seconds for the final part of the game.
Yeah.
But I suppose it was much smoother sailing in ways for your second day out last week against Monaghan, a team who we both now played at this stage.
Yeah.
First half, Monaghan were in front at half time, but Roscommon kind of came out and done the business in the second half then.
Yeah, and I wasn't really concerned at halftime. Like, Monaghan, it wasn't a gale force wind, but they did have a bit of a breeze. Like, it was enough just to, have a few 2-point shots and a few from distance. But I wasn't concerned. It was 2 points. I thought Roscommon played quite well. Just dropped a lot of shots short, few wides, and you're thinking, these are chances we have to be putting half them. Like, we missed a good bit, but I wasn't concerned. And to be honest, at halftime, I was still quite confident that Roscommon would win. And that was proven, because the first 10 or 15 minutes, they blew Monaghan away. Got Roy Beckin got caught up the field, turnover. And I think the big thing from Roscommon this year is they're moving it quicker. They're moving with pace. They're kicking the ball. We didn't see that last year. It was very slow, lethargic kind of football, hand passing, slow it down, wait for the right shot, dispossess Beckin. Enda Smith gets it, and he gives it to Jeremy Mercer and he puts it in the net. We get a penalty later as well. So we kind of put the game to bed fairly quick in that 10 or 15 minute spell, and controlled then the last 10 or 15 minutes as well. So it was a very satisfactory performance. And yeah, we knew we probably had to win that game. I think Monaghan are the same, even though, look, Monaghan have Dublin this Saturday. I think whoever loses that really could be gone. I think whoever loses that, no points after 3 games is a long way back. So it's very important that Roscommon got those 2 points. That gives them a platform that, okay, if we lose to Armagh on Sunday, it's not the end of the world. We have Galway and Dublin coming up. If we can get 1 win out of those 2 games, puts us on 4, and you have something to fight for in those last 2 games, and that's the big thing. So comfortable, and like yourselves against Monaghan as well. Comfortable, Armagh were very, very comfortable against Monaghan. So from Monaghan's point of view, you'd have to fear for them at the moment. But yeah, it's good having 2 points going into this game anyways.
Yeah, you're right. The Monaghan Armagh game, you just touched on it there. It's something we've already spoke about on the podcast, but just a recap. Armagh scoring 127 on the day, 125 from play, no 2-pointers. A lot of a lot of plays that brought the ball right into the high percentage scoring zone. So a lot of very, very easy scores on the day, which sort of meant very few needs or attempts to try 2-pointers. But yes, very, very comfortable. It was posed the Galway game, which was a bit more something that sort of to get our taste into, to talk about a little bit more. A lot went on that night. There was a lot of media talk about the hand pass over the bar situation.
Yeah.
Armagh done that 7 times, and at least certainly one occasion in particular, there was a clear goal scoring opportunity. Other ones probably could have been turned into had they tried more. So I guess it's something that came out of those games was like a lack of a ruthless streak, or at least not being prepared to be ruthless just yet. In those games, Armagh were largely in control against Galway, but there certainly Galway had periods of momentum and they cashed in on them for sure. But Armagh sort of kind of failed to pull away on a few occasions, caught within discipline with breaches that maybe Ciara McGinney didn't quite agree with. But either way, for sure, it was a great game to watch. We got beat right at the very end with a new rule where the ball was caught in midfield, or sorry, the Galway player caught the ball, was fouled, took a solo and go, and wasn't allowed to continue. Ball was brought up 40 metres right in front of the 21-metre line, and we lost by a point at the death. But again, new rules, they're still bedding in. Players are still learning. And I suppose it's not a bad time to actually be learning these type of things in the league rather than in a knockout championship game down the line.
Absolutely, and look, the new rules have added to it. I'm in favour of them, but there are a few that if I could bin, I'd get rid of them. The handing the ball back, I'd get rid of that. I think that's just nonsense. I think if a fella cynically throws the ball away, bring it up to 50 meters. That deserves it. He's slowing it down. Punish him for that. But like for people that are just dropping the ball on the ground, that's right beside the fella, anyways. Like that's not cynical play. Like that's just a bit of common sense. I think a referee should be allowed to apply his common sense rather than this handing the ball back. So that's one. The other one, I don't like the advance mark. In the Kerry Roscommon game, David Clifford caught a great ball inside. He was being tackled. So the thing with the advance mark now is you basically can do what you want. You have a free shot, and if you put it wide or whatever, you still have the handy free in the back pocket. Incredibly, David Clifford won a mark, and he was dead right to do this. He was jogging out towards the 2-point arc and working the ball around for the 2-pointer because he knew he had the handy free in front of the post. He said, well, try and bring this out. I can have a free shot here. I have the handy free in the back pocket, so I don't like that. The Hoosier, I don't like that. Either go back to what it was at the All-Ireland final. I'd nearly get rid of it altogether. I didn't like the kicking the ball into the stand. I just never really liked that way to finish a game. Just didn't really feel right. But I prefer it to this one. I think, as we've seen with the Kerry Roscommon game, this is milliseconds. Like, it's when you're down the line later in the year and people are saying, well, that could cost the team. Well, it's already cost Roscommon. I mean, that kind of Hoosier and timekeeping and all that, like, it could cost Roscommon their place in Division 1. We'll see by the end of the league. But there could be a big championship game later in that year. And I feel sorry for the referees that have to make split decisions on do they hear it and that ball leave his foot and all that. It's very hard for referees and they're asking a lot. So I get rid of those. There was, there was one more in my head, but I can't even think of it. But I am pro rules. I like the 3 up. I think it adds space. I think it adds the solo and go as well, speeds it up, and it's encouraging people to take on their men, more space inside, and we get to see better forward play. And I think, for the most part, and especially start of the leagues, we've seen some really good games. So for the most part, yeah, I think it has added, and hopefully we'll get more good games to come because, between the club final and the first couple of weekends of the National League, it's been quite enjoyable, I have to say.
Just a shout out and a thank you to Raymond Waters at the Old Coach Inn, Castleblaney, for the continued support of the podcast. If you're ever in Castleblaney, or even if you're not, why not visit the Old Coach Inn for a fine dining experience and entertainment in their friendly bar and lounge. That's in the Old Coach Inn, Castleblaney.
Well, if we move it on then now to the game at the weekend, Darragh, Armagh travelling to Roscommon, travelling to Hyde Park. Recent history in league and championship. In the league, almost 3 years ago, Roscommon won 12, Armagh not 12. In the Championship 2024, the All Ireland quarter final, Armagh 2-12, Roscommon 0-12. That's the two most recent meetings. So a win each league and championship. The last time Armagh actually won in Hyde Park was in 2014 in an All Ireland quarter final, 117 to 112. So it's been a while from a won there. The most recent one, as I say, is Roscommon, and also we've travelled to Hyde Park a couple of times recently. We also travelled to play Mayo, who were using Hyde
Yeah.
Park as their home ground for a season. We lost that day as well. Although one thing I remember was we lost that game, and we were just talking briefly to some of the Mayo fans after, and they said to us, "Here, there's an Armagh, there's an All Ireland and not Armagh team." Now that was 2022. I didn't believe them,
No, I
and they
know.
were
Yeah,
right.
yeah.
2 years later, it actually turned out to be true. But look, it hasn't necessarily been a happy hunting ground for Armagh in Hyde Park, and here we go. We're travelling here this weekend.
Yeah, yeah, and generally, I know Roscommon. Now the COVID year as well. When it restarted, I think they won in the athletic grounds. I think it was the first game actually back after COVID. They won there, and there was that classic game in Portlaoise in a qualifier as well. I think it was something mad scoring, but it was unbelievable football. Roscommon won that. So apart from probably that quarter final, in recent times, Roscommon have had a decent record against Armagh. And I'd expect a close game. Now, again, bookies odds I only use as a guide, but like Roscommon are nearly 3-1 to win on
Hmm.
on Sunday, which I find very big. I think Armagh are
Hmm.
rightfully favourites, but like Roscommon at home on the back of like I don't know, could Roscommon have done much more? Everyone thought they'd probably lose to Kerry by about 10 points. They lose in the very last throw of the game and should have either at least got a draw, maybe a win, and they beat Monaghan by 6 points. So like and that's not having all the same Bridges players as well.
Hmm.
And we might get onto that. They're coming back into the panel this week. We're expecting anyways. So I think that's probably a bit disrespectful. But Armagh are rightfully favourites. Of an impressive performance against Monaghan, and I didn't see only seen the highlights of the Galway game because I was away. But from all things, it probably was a game they left behind
Hmm.
from what you heard. So I'd be expecting a close enough game. And the key for Roscommon is to make it hard for teams to get something in the Hyde. And I think the game you referred to, the last league game in the Hyde 3 years ago, when Roscommon won, that we made that kind of a fortress. We bet Tyrone, we bet Donegal, and we bet Armagh in the league,
Hmm.
and we finished third in the league. So it's about making it hard for teams to get something in the Hyde and continue on this bit of momentum. So I'd expect a close game. I'd expect a close game. Armagh rightfully favourites, and it'll be extremely tough for Roscommon to get anything out of this game. We have to be realistic at the same time, but I'd expect a close game. And it's just being there again. I always say, be there with 10 minutes to go down the straight, and sure, who knows what can happen then. That's always the key, to give yourself a chance going into that last 10 minutes.
But one thing I noticed, Darragh, is we've had a lot of bad weather in recent times on the island, and the Roscommon pitch looks to be absolutely fantastic condition
Yeah,
despite all
yeah,
that. And also, you look to have had an upgrade in the ground as well. A lot of new
yeah.
seats have been added in down to the front. So Hyde Park it's quite the arena at the minute.
Yeah, no, fantastic work done. The pitch, yeah, usually it's in pristine condition. Now it had to be done about 10 years ago. It was kind of, let's be honest, it was farcical, really. We played a Division 1 campaign in 2016. It was our first year back, and we played 7 games in 7 different venues. I don't know, has anyone done that since? But we only played one game at the Hyde because it wasn't playable. We played games in Carrick and Shannon. We played games in Longford because the high pitch wasn't playable. So I think that was basically then that the pitch had to be done. So ever since then, it's been state of the art, a top class pitch. The other thing then was the facilities, and everyone will know with the Hyde, it hasn't been up to scratch in certain parts. So in front of the stand, there used to be concrete seating. That's all gone, and it's nearly like an extension of the stand now, proper seating, and I think it holds 6,500 to 8,000 fully seated now there.
Hmm.
So fantastic work done the last couple of years, and as we've seen the last couple of years as well, Mayo Donegal was held there last year. Mayo Dublin was held there the year before. Big crowds there. So yeah, it's one of those grounds now that's central enough in Ireland. Great location. Getting out of actually Roscommon town isn't too bad. There's plenty of approach roads in and out. So yeah, it's it's been very well done, and it's a credit to the people involved. And yeah, it's perfect for these type of games now, Division 1 games and Championship games coming up.
And you mentioned briefly the St. Bridget's players. So you expect to see those guys back this weekend. And are there any other players maybe returning?
Yeah, so I mean, look, the Bridges fellas are due back. They're back in training, I'm pretty sure. Now
How
Brian
many are
Stack.
there? How many are there?
Well, that's the question. I think anyone that was committed last year is back, and I think there may be one or two more from Bridges that have been added.
Hmm.
Now the thing is, Brian Stack, who would have been the Roscommon captain the last 2 or 3 years and a massive player for Bridges, he's out of the league. He's not playing the league. He should be back for the start championship. And Eddie Nolan, midfielder for Roscommon and Bridges, he's the same. So they're two
Okay.
players that we won't be seeing anytime soon. But you still have Rory Fallon obviously had an incredible club final. Connor Hand as well, incredible club final. Ben O'Carroll, Pierce Frost. I think Sean Trundle is in. Shane Canan. Connor Carroll, the goalkeeper. So there's probably the guts of 7 or 8 players, and another club, Strokestown, were involved in the All Ireland Intermediate Club semi final, so they went far in the club as well. So Colin Neary, who would have been a starter last year, he came on for the last 5 minutes against Monaghan. So it'll be interesting to see, does he get more game time or potentially start this game as well. So you'll be talking, the guts of 7 or 8 players to come back in. Whether they'll all come back in together now, I'm not sure. I really don't know, but they're back in training anyways. Yeah.
Yeah. So Armagh on the flip side, there's been a lot of talk about Armagh being a team in transition, but it's not something that I would sort of subscribe to just yet, because basically Kieran McGinney has, yes, Armagh have some players have left the squad through either not committing or retirement, but Kieran McGinney has brought in quite a few young faces, players like Padraig O'Keefe, Callum O'Neill, and a second Callum O'Neill, not the one who plays midfield.
Yeah.
Thomas Galvin, Aaron O'Neill, who's Rian and Oisin's younger brother, Ryan McAvoy. These guys are all brought in sort of kind of like from like the under 20 team last year. None of these guys are getting any playing time yet. And
Yeah.
really they're brought in to sort of make contributions to develop their physical, mental fortitude, to learn the Armagh way under Geezer, to become understanding of what it takes to be a high level performer. They're not actually being brought in just yet to make contributions on the pitch, on the field of play. It's to develop themselves. The freshness actually coming from Armagh is sort of coming more from within. So as players who maybe were in their position maybe 2, 3, 4 years ago, they're now getting their chance on the field of play. Those people wouldn't be new to Armagh, but they're new maybe to other county, people looking in from the inside. So I don't see a team in transition just yet, purely because the young lads who've been brought in haven't actually got a chance and aren't likely to this season unless there's a major amount of injuries or something like that comes along.
Yeah, and like you go back to last year, like Armagh, they lost the Ulster final after extra time. I mean, I won't remind how close Armagh have been in the multiple Ulster finals at this stage.
Yeah.
Did well in the group stage, then comprehensively bet Dublin. And you go back to that Kerry game, Armagh were favourites. Armagh,
Mhm.
people were thinking Armagh were going to win. So you have to refer back to that. Okay, it didn't happen, and Kerry were incredible on the day as well. I think it was more Kerry just being awesome, and you've seen their performances against Tyrone and Donegal after that as well. I think just Kerry were so good for those 3 or 4 games towards the end of the year. Like Armagh were highly rated going into that. So okay, they're missing a few, and I said, as you said there, for various reasons, but it's not like they're going to go, like they were rated a top 3 team, I would say, going to the quarterfinals last year. It's not like they've gone now suddenly outside the top 8. Armagh are still in the Donegal, Galway, Kerry bracket, I would say. And I'm trying to think, like Dublin are probably falling away. Mayo are a bit of an unknown quantity. Time will tell. They've started very well. They've probably a full panel of players as well that have committed and not really missing anyone at this stage. So it'll be
Maybe
there.
Tyrone.
Tyrone, yeah, but it's kind of hard with Tyrone as well. I mean, we're on about transition. Maybe they could be in transition. Like, there's so many young players, some unbelievable under 20 teams from Tyrone, and it's just how do you get those players in now? And that could be the key for them to get that bit of a blend. And it could be time for them, but they have so much talent coming. So I'd say Armagh, but yeah, they're top 4 or 5 still, absolutely no doubt. And if once you're top 4 or 5, you'll be quarter-final stage if you can get there, and who knows after that? As you've seen, when they won the All Ireland that year, probably not expected to win the All Ireland that year. Let's be honest, probably they met Roscommon, the big thing for Armagh was to win the game in Croke Park and win the quarter
Yep.
final. You go on to Kerry and you win that, and then you're in the final. So Armagh will be there. Armagh will be close. Armagh will be, they'll always be competitive, absolutely. And as I said, Geezer has that instilled in them, and they still have some old warriors still there, like Andrew Mernon, still, playing great football, like great football. He's a real all round player. And so when you have the likes of him around there, Oisin O'Neill playing well, he's wasn't starting in that All Ireland team, but now he's becoming a bit more of a high profile role in that team again now. So there's still quality all round, and if you can mix it with the lads that you said there and get one or two of those on the pitch more, again, very good squad there.
Well, I'm going to ask you just maybe who you expect to stand out for us coming here shortly, but just to finish it up on Armagh, the attacking style this year has actually been very impressive, very fast in transition. It's something that Conleth Gilligan does a lot of work on, and now that Kieran Donaghy is away, he's moved back to Kerry. It sort of appears that Conleth Gilligan has continued on sort of in his role as the transition coach and now the offensive coach. And even when the fast transitions slow up, they're still doing very well, and sort of all the loops and cuts and screening needed to create the space. So it's probably something for Roscommon to maybe have to look out for this weekend. But if I could just ask you about the Roscommon sort of top performers, the guys who maybe should stand out this weekend.
Yeah, look, and I said this on my last podcast, and they won't thank me for it, but I call them the old dogs. They're not old, they're still 31, 32, but the likes of Diarmuid Murtagh and Enda Smith, like the last day, Enda got 2-2, Diarmuid got 1-5. They're still delivering the goods, and you need them, and they're big players. Diarmuid is captain this year, and Diarmuid Murtagh is the top scorer across the 4 divisions so far. I think 211. So he's the overall top scorer, and I think he's the top scorer from play as well. So he's had a great start to the year. And Darragh Craig, I suppose, we've been waiting for Darragh to kind of explode, really, because he has all the ability in the world, like right foot, left foot. He has that kind of Shane Walsh thing where you say he's just as good on either foot, really. Like he's left footed, but he's taking the right footed frees at the moment as well. So when you can do that, that just shows all the ability and confidence. And my God, in Kerry, like Jason Foley's one of the best fullbacks in the country. He absolutely destroyed Jason Foley. He won everything that went into him. He got 9 points, and it was one of those performances. He said, "Yeah, right. Let's see that more." A bit quiet against Monaghan, but I will say he didn't really get as much ball against Monaghan. It kicked into him, so I will say that. So I'd be looking at those three really as the big three, and they're all up front. So if we can get big performances from those three, and I'm sure Armagh will be looking at them and who they're going to put on, each one of them, and to suit their needs. If we can get a performance, or even a top performance from two of them, it'll be a big help. So they're the three I'll be highlighting anyways. That'll be definite starters. Again, it's hard to know after that who exactly will start. I would expect the same team that played against Monaghan, pretty much close. I wouldn't expect the Bridges lads to come straight back in. I think he'll just ease them back in. I think be a few on the bench. I may be wrong. Maybe one of them may start. We'll wait and see. But I think, the lads that have started so far deserve a chance. They played well. They have the jersey, and it's up to the Bridges lads to win it back off them. So yeah, it'll be interesting for the next few weeks. But I'd expect a similar enough team to start on Sunday.
And one more question, Darragh, just before I get a prediction from you. Donny Smith retired at the start of the season, or coming into the season. Great servant for Roscommon.
Yeah, Donny, fantastic, really. Like he would have went into the senior panel at 18 or 19. Like it's kind of unheard. It's unheard of, really, nowadays. But Donny, Enda, Diarmuid Murtagh, they all went into that senior panel at 18, 19, nearly straight away after leaving minor. Whereas nowadays, like you see, you don't really. I mean, a David Clifford comes around and he goes straight in, or a Finn Barrow, he will say he's in straight with Donegal. But you rarely see 18, 19-year-olds playing inter-county now. It's usually even lads finishing under 20.
it's nearly a big step for, to go straight from under 20 to senior. So it goes to show, like, Donny gave so much service to Roscommon, and an excellent player. Big miss, and again, it's leadership. Like I said, Donny retired, but also like Kieran Murtagh retired as well. Another fantastic servant to Roscommon over the years. So they're two big losses to that forward line. But it's and I interviewed Donny as well, but he's of the opinion it's like next man up.
Yeah.
Donny steps away. It's up to now. Darragh Craig, can you carry that mantle? Can you become one of the big men now? Darragh's about 25, so can you carry that mantle? And again, it opens an opportunity for someone in the squad as well. Like we've seen other players, like Darragh Heenan, for instance, has come into the team the last two games, and he's just been electric. Like the pace of him is just being frightening so far. So it's giving opportunities. So they're big misses, but again, fantastic servants to Roscommon, and yeah, it'd be good to see them involved in some way down the line. I said, look, the county's lost their club's game. They'll be getting more of them now this year in the club league and that. But it'd be good to see them involved in maybe underage teams, and who knows, with Roscommon backroom teams, or maybe managers in the future. It'd be good to keep them involved.
Yeah, fair play to them. So look, before I let you go, Darragh, I'll ask you for your prediction for the weekend's game then.
Yeah, I mean, look, it's either head over heart. I as I said at the start, I do think it's going to be close. I do. I think Roscommon are carrying momentum, which is key. They're like, I'll be really fearing this now. If Roscommon had lost convincingly to Kerry and lost to Monaghan, like you can imagine the confidence be on the floor already, and you're facing into another game. So I tell you what, like the difference a couple of weeks makes. Like even before the league, not really much talk about the team and not much hope. But my God, what 2 games can do, and the buzz around the place now. Everyone's looking forward to the game on Sunday, and that's a great place to be in. So I expect Roscommon to be very competitive. I hope they are. And if we, again, the big thing, and I've always said it at the start of the thing, if we can get performances, that's the big thing. No one expects us to stay up. It'd be a real bonus. It'd be fantastic to stay up. But if we can just keep getting performances in, getting better, some results will look after themselves. It's about building for championship and championship after that. So yeah, look, I'm a Roscommon man. I'm going to back us by a couple of points. I think we have a decent record against Armagh. I know it doesn't really count for much over the years, and we have home advantage, hopefully big crowd, and carrying that momentum in, I'll give us by 2 points. But that's a bit of heart talking as well. So I'm sure you'll be siding with Armagh, Gary.
Well, I wouldn't expect anything else from you, Darragh. Yes, look, I fully agree. A tight game. You've made some very valid points about Roscommon's the confidence that they should be coming into with this one. I did not expect the performance against Kerry, for sure. I was very surprised to see that, and also looked at it thinking we have Roscommon in a couple of games time, so they're going to be ready for that. You then went and did something against Monaghan that we did. That was beat them and quite comfortably in the end. So yes, I expect it to be tight, but I will have to do what you've just done, and I will side with my home county. I'm going to go somewhere between 1 and 3 points. So let's call it a 2-point win for Armagh.
Yeah, I think that's fair enough. But I think what we're both expecting, and I hope it'll be a close and enjoyable game. I said earlier as well, going down the stretch after 60 minutes, if we're there or thereabouts with 10 minutes to go, it'll lift the atmosphere and all that, and it can only add to it as well. Because I'd expect a decent, more than a decent, I would expect a nice Armagh crowd to travel to Roscommon on Sunday. I know the last time they were there 3 years ago, there was a big crowd that went. So there should be a nice crowd on Sunday, a good atmosphere, and hopefully have a game to match it.
Yep, for sure. Well, look, Darragh, much appreciated. Thanks for coming on. Pleasure talking to you. Maybe we'll chat again if Armagh and Roscommon say meet in the league final, for example, or if we meet each other in the Sam Maguire series later in the year.
An All-Ireland final, Gary, would be great.
Oh, wouldn't it just?
Absolutely, yeah.
Okay, Darragh, pleasure. Thanks very much.
No bother.